I know that planned giving can be a little intimidating, but much like our stock market update today, I hope you leave knowing that it is not horrifying, right? That's the key. Let's go on to the next slide. We're going to jump right in and talk why planned giving is not just for the wealthy. The key is to remember that everyone is a potential planned gift donor. When I started in fundraising, I definitely had a stereotype. I was working in the South and I thought they had to be of a certain age. They probably had to have white hair and wear some pearls and very expensive clothes that I would never be able to afford. The reality is, I have certainly received planned gifts from donors that fit that stereotype, but I have also had some amazingly generous young and middle-aged donors decide to go ahead and get a jump on their planned giving and leave a legacy gift that will be transformational when it comes to fruition. Let's dive right in, Trish, with the next slide. The top three motivations that donors cite when making a planned gift are, first and foremost, the importance of the cause. This is why we encourage you to really take a look at your data and to really be conscientious of those loyal donors that are giving every year. They're the ones that are close to the mission and they really do care about your causes. Number two, a belief that that nonprofit can make a significant impact. We always talk about stewardship and impact reporting. If you're not demonstrating to your donors the impact of their annual giving or their major gift, then they're not really going to understand what kind of impact they can make in a legacy gift or a major plan gift down the road. Lastly, donors' ability to make a larger gift through an estate gift. I've said for all of the years that I've been in the philanthropy world, I am never going to be a person that has her name on a building. I don't see that in the cards for my family. But it is very obvious to me now that there are some simple vehicles that my husband and I could use to leave a significant estate gift. A simple thing like making a nonprofit the beneficiary of a life insurance policy. You don't think about how easy that is and what a huge, simple impact that could have on an organization of our choice down the road. Let's go on to the next slide, Trish. All right. I said it at the beginning. Consider everyone as a potential planned gift donor. The youngest planned gift that I have personally worked on was with a young man who was under 30. He had gotten a promotion. He had gotten a nice big retirement package and investments as part of that promotion. And he, at that age knew that he did not intend to have children and he did not really have an heir that would need his life insurance policies down the road. And so he thought, like me, I'm never going to name a building in my lifetime, but this is something I can do for his alma mater. And so he established a life insurance policy that would directly benefit the institution after his passing. I worked with a colleague at the time who would always tell people, when you sit down and make your planned gift estates, you're going to live 20 extra years. That's just how the science works. I have to say, I believe in it. You make that plan, you set it and forget it, and then you get to live a long and happy life. The average donor age when they write their first will is 44 years old. If you are laying in that message about planned giving, if you're sharing information about the vehicles that are available to your donors through giving to your organization, they will have the awareness. And when they're working on that first will, of course, they may be thinking about family and children and all the expenses that would be left behind, but they can also think about the opportunities to support those key charities that are close to their heart. 53% of donors established their first planned gift, right? They documented that first intention to make a planned gift at the time that they wrote their first will. So in their early 40s, people are already thinking about their legacy and what they can do for the charities they love so much. The average age at which donors made or documented their very first planned gift was age 52.8. You guys, that is not a stereotypical blue-haired old lady, right? That is a young and vibrant woman or man. And we have to think about the reality that they can make a huge, huge impact on our organizations. There is one more stat I want to share with you guys. The data comes back to us that nearly 1/3 of mid-level donors, and in this particular study, they were looking at donors that give between $1,000 and $10,000 annually. So right in line with what we would consider a mid-level donor. Those donors have made bequests to charity. 1/3 of mid-level donors have established some direct bequest to a charity, and another 23% are currently considering it. Don't rely on the stereotype. Don't be afraid to layer in those planned gift vehicles, and go ahead and tell your prospects all the ways they can support your organizations. I believe I'm going to kick it over to Jake now.
All right, wonderful. So this is a lot of great data, and we love data. As you know, I'm a huge nerd, and the Pride staff are less of a nerd than me, but still love data. But we want to really talk about how to frame this and what this actually means for y'all. So it's great to learn stuff, but the importance of these sessions is that you can take quick bite-sized things and bring it into your next week of philanthropy work and actually have some actionable steps for us. So what does this mean for us? First and foremost is that we want to emphasize that it's just not too early based on a donor's age to start the conversation about planned giving. This doesn't tend to be, you sit down, you ask for a gift, you get a gift, you churn, you move on to the next one. And hopefully all fundraising isn't exactly like that. There's a nature of that that's a little bit that way with some of the gifts we do, that depending on the size. But for planned gifts, it's so relationship based. I think it's like an average of like 7 interactions or 6 hours. There's some like lower limit in terms of how many hours it takes to get a gift, or how many hours of exposure to a brand or a cause or a mission or a person before someone wants to give. It's above 27 for planned gifts. So you can call it 27 interactions, or if you want to call that 27 meaningful hours. So like a lot more, many times more over. So these tend to be people who are pretty ingrained in your mission already. And it's not going to be a one-off conversation usually, unless they've been around your organization for a long time and they're already thinking about it. So it really just helps to start the conversation early, knowing that this is not I make an ask, I get a gift, we move on to the next, in the way that some fundraising is. So we say early and we say consistent instead of depth. So instead of going deep dive on the conversation all the time, just doing a little bit over a long period of time tends to be the most effective strategy to kind of consistently build a pipeline of planned gifts. The way that we like to compare this or liken this, to give you an analogy that helps kind of frame it a little bit better, is you think about planned giving as like the 401k of your philanthropy program. Yes, you want to work on, like if you were a salaried employee, you want to work on getting raises, you want to work on getting a good job, saving money, being thoughtful about your spending. But also you want to take a percentage of your salary and put it into a retirement account. That money doesn't really do you any good. You're not going to make money by putting it away and not spending it, but you need to be putting money in your retirement account every single paycheck for your whole career, so that when you get to a certain age when you don't want to work 40 hours a week, you have this nest egg of stuff that's not only been set aside, but it's been growing and cultivating on its own the whole time. So we think about planned gifts as this little bit that we invest into our 401k or our IRA or our investment account of some kind. Yes, we're not going to see that money for years. For a career, it could be decades. Luckily, it happens a little faster with planned giving, but the point still stands as this is not something that's going to help us this week. We're going to work on this for a couple hours, and next week we're going to get nothing out of it. But 5 years from now, we're going to get a whole lot out of it, and that's still worth a little bit of time investment across. So it's greater future returns, but it's just a matter of, we have to be disciplined about, yes, this is not going to help us right now, and that's okay. We'll spend the other 38 hours of our work week making sure that we're focusing on the things that help us now. So we do recommend, oh, sorry, I was going to make that last point, but yeah, it's 2 hours a week. That's all you need to know. 1 to 2 hours per week on planned giving, you'll see impactful results in 5 to 10 years is the average. That's not a perfect thing. Sometimes you get surprised. If someone's 96 and you get a planned gift, you probably, just based on law of statistics, see that gift before someone who gives a planned gift at 45, hopefully. But again, you never know. Okay, now next slide. Sorry about that, Trish. That's totally my fault. Next point we want to make is that current, as in people who are giving to you within this campaign, this calendar year, and loyal, as in people who have given to you more than one time across different projects of all giving levels, down into the annual gifts under $100 all the way up to multi-$1,000, multi-$10,000 gifts, are great prospects for planned gifts. People who can give substantially in their will is way more people than people who can give substantially in liquid cash right now, or even in appreciated stock right now, people who are not as liquid. Just don't want to qualify and say, well, our best plan giving donors are, we're going to start with our major gifts people. Like maybe that is the case. Maybe that's the biggest lever you can pull, and maybe that's somewhere to start. But we don't want to totally disqualify and segment all of our plan giving donors by giving type. It's why we don't have an additional 4 committees for like 4 different giving types across all of planned gifts. We can lump all planned gifts into one, because the amount more people can give through their estate is tremendously higher. It really helps to just kind of consistently tell your story about why it's impactful. The biggest thing we can do is just make people aware that we have a planned giving program over and over and over, and convey the importance of it going somewhere. Saying, hey, you know, like, we don't expect to see anyone's entire estate, but if you're thinking about doing a percentage of your portfolio to charity upon your death, here's why we think that we can make a lasting impact on our community, on the people that you care about, where we can direct these dollars to people who need it the most, or whatever your story is. But just kind of consistently telling it and relating it to planned gifts as to why it's important. You just want to be raising a flag and saying, look, this is why we're important. And if you do that a little bit over a long period of time, that's way more effective than having to go a deep dive on planned gifts or have a planned giving campaign or something like that. The other main component to this is talking about impact and kind of furthering a cause. Not like, we would love to get $1 million gift because that would be impactful for us. It's like, well, tell us why. Why is that a part of what we're doing? Well, we can have a specific program in place. A lot of our clients do, where they say 30% or 10% or half or all of planned gifts that we get within this time period, or until we say otherwise, go to this endowment. If you're not familiar with how endowment's structured, it's a fund for the principal for which cannot be touched. So it's just an investment account. Say it's $100,000, or say it's $1 million to make the math easy. $50,000 a year will come off as interest, and that interest goes into the organization's bank account every single year. So though the donor gives you $1 million, you don't spend the $1 million, you just sit and let that $50,000 come in forever. You get enough of those funds, and all of your expenses evaporate eventually. That's kind of the goal, is the more of those that you get, the more you have this like free cash flow. It's pretty much guaranteed. You know, big universities like Harvard and some of those others have like $500 million endowments. They never have to charge tuition again. I mean, they definitely will, but they don't have to. They have enough money in their endowment. They don't even need to spend the endowment. They just let the interest come off that and support all the things that they do. So that's what we want to do. And we want to say, hey, half of the planned gifts that we get go to this endowment fund, so that every time we get another one and another one and another one, our ongoing operational guaranteed line item revenue goes up every single time and will continue to go up. And once it hits a threshold, it never drops back down, because that fund, that nest egg, doesn't get touched. Therefore, it will continue to grow and grow. So that's one thing that you can do. There's a lot of other ways, but that's a lot of our clients use that because it's a really easy mission and messaging thing to use. And the last thing we want to say is just to kind of look for opportunities just to plant the seed at every chance you get. You don't have to have like, oh, I'm going to have this big conversation. And even worse, it's about death. Like, that's too much. That's way, way too much. What we just say is just, hey, we have this program here, or did you know that we accept, you know, term life insurance policies as long as they're paid up, or, you know, through your donor advised fund, we actually do charitable gift annuities this way, or, you know, if you've ever thought about will, we have this recognition program where we recognize our planned giving donors every December. So these little tiny touch points, and just kind of doing it throughout and making sure that your consistent donor base knows a lot and hears a lot about planned giving is way more traction than you'll ever get by trying to do a big deep dive in over 2 weeks, or a big sprint, as they're called in like the tech and finance industry. So, all right, I will turn it over to Marty to kind of wrap us up here, and then we'll go to any questions from there.
We need to go back one slide real quickly though. Please, Trish. There we go. I've got several discussion questions. Thank you so much, Jake. Want to make sure to hear from you all. Thank you, Lisa, for engaging in the chat. That is going to help kick us off in this first question. What kinds of consistent and continuous messaging about planned giving can and do you share with your donors? Lisa, do you mind me putting you on the spot, since you said you're doing some things? And let's just talk a little bit about that, and then we'd love for others to chime in as well.
Sure. We have recently started doing some e-blasts, and we do have it on our website, although it probably needs to be updated. But yeah. So we do e-blasts, and we have done a few very general ones to all of our email folks, and then we have done some that are a little bit more topic specific to a segmented group. And we found that the segmented group, a higher percentage of them opened that than the larger.
Yeah,
So that was
that's
interesting.
good information. Yeah. So when you're saying e-blast, you are specifically talking about plan giving or a plan giving vehicle or something that's relevant to the conversation. That's awesome. And I agree, targeting it is a great space. Uh, in addition to that, how many of you are finding opportunities within other existing communications that you are putting out and dropping those little seeds of plan gift nuggets? Could be you know, do we owe you another thank you at the bottom of a tax receipt, right? I love this one. Many of our clients use on their gift acknowledgement letter for a cash gift. Do we owe you another thank you? Have you left our organization in your estate plans? Contact us for information about the legacy circle or something like that. In your annual report, making sure you have a blurb. In any sort of electronic newsletter, making sure you have a blurb. Various details with stories, with did you know what a charitable gift annuity is and how that can benefit you? All of those types of things are fair game. So Lisa, thank you for kicking us off. Anybody else have any other ideas or things that you've already done, things you're wanting to try that you'd like to unmute yourself and contribute to the discussion? Any thoughts? Or questions in this space, like how do I make consistent messaging? What does that look like? How can I come up with a plan here? Nobody else? Nobody else wants to participate?
I guess this is not really a plan, but we're just, in the quiet phase of our campaign and are having individual meetings with our major donors and board members and asking them for a pledge, but then also asking some of them for a legacy gift, which is just something we've never done, right?
Yeah.
So we've already seen a lot of progress in just asking the question, which sounds simple, but we weren't doing it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Katie.
Yeah.
I think that's a very great segue into that second question, basically. Are you starting conversations early with your most loyal supporters, right? You're sitting down and asking someone who's probably given to you already in the past, right? Because you're in that quiet phase, you're going to your family, your closest people first. And so when you're talking to them about that, bringing it up. And it's been well received. You've already, I think at least two, right, have
Yeah,
said,
we've gotten two. And then one, we asked a board member for a personal pledge, and in the conversation, he mentioned they were going to update their will next week. And so then I brought it up and he was like, well, we could make a much larger gift that way. And so now we're talking to him about doing a charitable gift annuity. So which would be $50,000 to $100,000 gift.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Very exciting. So much like everything we talk about in philanthropy, if you don't ask, you don't get. This is absolutely one of those things. And there are so many different ways to go about a plan gift ask in that cultivation process. But when you're sitting down with them and asking them for support of a campaign is absolutely an appropriate time, especially for those loyal supporters, right? They've demonstrated that they are all in the past. And so it's great to have that part of the conversation. Anyone else, anything that you're doing very intentionally, or even if it's not a strategy or intentional, but hey, we've kind of tried this and it worked, and so we should probably do it a little bit more. Anything else that you're doing with some of your most loyal supporters, ways that you're touch pointing for them? If not, let's go into the next question on what groups can you target to proactively communicate, right? In that your family already. Lisa, you mentioned that you've done some targeted emails. Who have you chosen to do targeted emails to, and what was the message? How was that nuanced different than just a general mass email?
Definitely the people who have given to us for consecutive years. And I can't remember what it was, but like, at least 5 years or something like that.
Yeah. Most of you have a donor database that you should be able to look at the years of contributing, right? And that's a great segmentation. What about those people that volunteer, that give of their time, right?
Maybe a mailing to all of your volunteers or a touch point to all of your volunteers. Did you know we have a legacy society or a legacy circle? What other groups can we target?
Retirees.
Retirees. Thank you, Jake. Those people who have given of their years of service in their employment to your organization. Retirees, they've retired, they've lived, breathed the mission of your organization for years. They're a great group. Who else? What else? Are people putting things in the chat that I'm not seeing? Maybe. Current employees. Thank you, Trish Creech. Yes, yes. What about your board members? Katie mentioned board members. I think that's a very, very good place to start. Those people who are leading your organization, right? So when you kind of go beyond that, I think you start looking at giving club members in the space of annual gifts, right? If they've been annual supporters. So same kind of thing how Lisa had said, those people who have made a gift more than one time, your special gift donors. I mean, you definitely can segment in so many different ways, lots of different messages that are going to resonate with those people in your organization. So great brainstorming. Thank you all for contributing. And the last question, I want us to, this is sort of a, hey, what can I take away from this so that I can make sure I'm doing the time, right? Jake said 1 to 2 hours a week. We all have 1 to 2 hours a week that we could reprioritize to this, right? I'm not saying not everyone's not busy, already overworked in the hours that they have, but I think if we took time to push aside a few things and we put the investment, the dividends would pay off. So how do we dedicate time every week to our planned gifts program? Let's get some ideas here, some things that if you say it out loud, maybe you can commit to it for yourself. Any ideas how you can do that? First and foremost, block time on your calendar. That's a starting point, right? Go ahead, do the, let's put the boulders in instead of the sand first, right? Let's put that time on our calendar. Let's push aside, say, this is important. I'm going to block time. What types of activities can you do with that time? Because that's great. We block time, and then we get to, okay, I'm supposed to do planned gifts for an hour. What should I do?
So I'll say for me, one of my fears about approaching people for a planned gift conversation was the fact that I didn't know anything about planned gifts. And so intentionally scheduling time every month to either talk to a professional financial planner that was in our database and like pick their brain, or to join an organization in my region that focused on planned giving. That gave me, 1 hour a month that I knew I was going to learn something that would help me in this particular area. So the Charitable Gift Association probably has a chapter in your location. So, take a look, learn something, meet some people that know a whole lot more than most of us about planned gifts.
I love it. Thank you, Jenna. Any other ideas? You got an hour to work on planned giving. Where do you start? Come on, someone has an idea.
I think what I would do is mostly work on just making people aware that we have a planned giving program. A lot of it kind of takes care of itself, or the conversation is much easier. You just, like, for lack of a better term, building brand equity with your planned giving or your legacy society. You're just letting your loyal supporters and your volunteers and your retirees and employees and everybody know that you accept planned gifts and what that means.
Thank you, Jake. There are so many different ways to do that, right? We can start from, hey, we're spending this year focusing on this, or we are relaunching our planned gifts giving club, or did you know this many people in our community have already, there's so many different opening conversations that we can have. And whether it's individual conversations, whether it's putting mailings out, whether it's asking people their advice on how to grow and expand, whether it's engaging your committee, whether it's saying, hey, I don't have an active committee. I know the Pride staff has told us we need a planned gifts team, but we've been so focused on cash now for our campaign that we've sort of backburnered that. reprioritizing, bringing the people into the fold and having conversations, building those relationships with the people that we know who can help spread awareness, the people we know who can help with making those commitments, right? Just like everything else. So, well, I hope that you all have gotten some really good ideas. And just a little teaser, we have our client exclusive workshop coming up. The dates and on the one of the last slides, but in a couple of weeks is focused on planned gifts. So we will be deep diving a whole lot further into this topic with some more specific tangibles, hopefully to help really get things going for y'all in the coming weeks and months ahead. So with that, I'd love to just open it up for any questions that anyone has, anything we didn't cover today or questions you may have. We're happy to entertain those at this time.
I have a question.
Yes, Lisa.
So, I need to engage with, and I'm fairly new here, but I need to engage with those consecutive donors and just kind of reach out and introduce myself and say thank you. And at what point, I mean, will I just kind of know when it makes sense to say, hey, have you ever thought about this? Or have you know, how do I approach it when I'm actually like kind of introducing myself, or do I wait until I've already had one meeting with them, or any suggestions on that?
Yeah, I think that it is obviously going to depend on the relationship you have. If it's a very first meeting, there may be something they say that you're able to educate and inform them right then and there in a way. I always view it in plan gifts like I am on their team helping them figure out how to leave a legacy. I think you do that a little bit in a normal gift ask anyway, but especially with planned gifts. Um, I'm not the expert in all the different tools, but we can help you navigate that if that's something you want to do. So just being able to, say, hey, I'm new with the organization. I see that you have been a loyal supporter for years. I want to tell you about what I see happening here. We have a current campaign. We've got this happening, these new services we're able to do. And I also, because you've been so involved for so long, wanted you to know we have a, planned giving program, our legacy circle. Do you know anything about that? Would you be interested in learning more? I think it's okay in an introductory call because you're sort of putting everything out there and getting to know them. And so that's sort of where you see if someone's like, yes, I would be interested in more, then you can maybe deep dive in another time. But I think there's, again, no time like the present to sort of toss that. It's a softball you can toss up. It's not a, hey, would you do this? Right? It's, we've got this. Did you know about it? I don't know if you knew because I wasn't here before. Right?
Lisa, there's no better time than to use the new kid card, right? I haven't had a chance to dig into our records. I'd love to just hear from you if you've ever thought about leaving us a planned gift. You've been so loyal to the organization, right? Play the new kid, and you might go back with a whole bunch of information that the team didn't know, just because it's never been formally documented.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Good luck. Have fun with it. Right? Anyhow.